So we're holding Siman Kuf Pei Daled of this Niddah, Sif Daled. So we explained pretty much last time a little bit the idea of what Ona is, that this is a time that a woman expects. As the term, or as the jargon goes, Oreach Bizmano Ba. The visitor, the guest, arrives in its time. But some guests are on time, and some guests are a little late, and some guests are a little bit early. And that's what complicates matters for women, that it's not an exact science, or for some it is. And because of that, women have to do all kinds of cheshbonot to figure out when they should be expecting it. We did say that there is something called onat michush. In other words, you can have actually a veset, kavua, based on michushim alone, based on feelings, based on certain physical sensations. And there is some advantage to that, because as we pointed out in Sif Beis, when the Mechaber said that once you know when that time is, that according to the Mechaber Shita, you only have to be poresh, or separate yourself that one ona, if it's the day, if it's the night, whether it's the end of the day, whether it's the beginning of the day, it's only that day. And this is, of course, the Mechaber says, Ben shekaba veset begibel pamim or b'pam, whether this was based on a veset that was established 3 times, or whether it was just a one-time thing, that she still needs to be concerned about that one-time incident. The Ramah adds to that kol ze lo ma'ir elo beveset hatalui biyamim, that we need to keep in mind that this ona that we discussed, that you have to be purged that night or that day, is only when the veset is dependent or based on days, certain days. But veset hatalui b'shinui haguf, a veset that is dependent on what the body feels, and she's pretty much sure about that, that is very easy then. Then it means that basically until she has that feeling, there's no need to separate yourself. That feeling is the trigger for when that veset has arrived.
His question.
Yes.
What if a woman has that during a regular time,
right,
and she has a feeling that time regularly, but she has no feeling?
That's okay.
Which one first, because of the time
yes,
arrived?
Yes.
Or
yes.
is the fact that she doesn't have the feeling sufficient to...
We covered that before. That sometimes if a veset is totally on the 2 of them, then on both of them, then it's a combination of the 2.
So if one of the 2 is staying,
then it's not a complete.
Doesn't have to be 4, or
So anyway, in regards to your question, that is covered in Siman Kuf Pei Tes, and the Mechaber paskins that if she in fact does have both veset, to the michush and to the days, she's choshesh to both, and if she only gets one and not the other, then it's not it. If she has established both, it's both. If one comes without the other, regardless of which one it is, then it's not necessarily the veset yet. That's discussed later on when we talk more in detail about the veset. All right, we mentioned the Or Zarua, speaking about the Ona, that he's machmir for a 24 period of 24 hours. Chroinim, I think the vast majority of them are lenient, as the Mechaber was. There's no mention of the Or Zarua. However, there are quite a few who say one should be machmir. As far as what should the harchakas be during that time, so we said that the main harchaka is intimacy, as the Mechaber brings, that v'lo mishar krivos elo mitashmish bilvad. There are some who, of course, say that you should machmir, but that's what the psak is in the Shulchan Aruch, that the main halchaka is the main issue, and of course, and that is what the Torah forbids. All right, and then we went on to explain Bamed Vor Mamurim. All of this concerns Igdoila, an adult woman, but with a young girl, Shelo Igia Limei Neurim, which is the age of 12 approximately. V'lo Ivia Siman, she does not have any indicators of adulthood. There was physical signs on her body. Then you don't, if she were to be married, of course, ein tzarich lifrosh samuch levestad, there's no need to be porish close to the veset. We're not expecting her to have it. Kol zman shelo kavato shalosh pamim, as long as she did not establish it, of course, 3 times. And the same is true with skina, with the older woman, shenistalku dameho, that no longer has her period. So this is an important point here, because we will see how this relates to a pregnant and a nurse. There are certain individuals who, because of either their anatomy, each the circumstances, they are probably not going to see blood. I say probably, because there are exceptions, even to those individuals who are not supposed to see blood. Occasionally they get blood. One of them is a very interesting one. One of them is a woman who is frightened or in constant fear. She's hiding in a cave. We will see that soon. The Gemara, in speaking about fright, says there's one kind of fright that can bring blood, if it's a sudden fright, as I believe it says it by Esther. But Titchalchala Malka, Esther Malka was, shocked at what she heard. Pirseta Niddah, because of the fright, came a Niddah. So a sudden fright can bring about Niddah. As we've said, certain activities can bring it about even though it's not the time. It could still happen. And that is why it's important for a woman to be aware of herself, to check herself if she felt something. If she doesn't feel something, there's no reason for her to constantly check herself. Women who were involved in Tahara in the olden days, they needed to be more aware of if they were clean or not. But today, it's only legabe relations with the husband. For that, she doesn't have to suspect that something happened unless she feels something. And the feeling is, of course, an important part of this whole thing, because midoraisa, that's an important condition for making her to make, not just seeing the blood, but actually it come out. And of course, that is also helpful to know as of when she is tummy. It could happen that a woman wakes up in the morning. Oh, she got her period, or whatever, she's unclean. Well, as of when? Well, the as of when is not so important as it was back then, because the taharas, today she simply has to know, because she has to write it down. Was it as of this morning, as of last night? And we'll be talking about that too. Does it last into the day if it happened at night, or it just happened at night? So usually we take it as is. In other words, she just discovered it now, as of now. And she doesn't necessarily have to be concerned from before. But these are all questions that may come up, and that is why we need to see the various circumstances in the way they happen. Is it as a result of her veset? Is it a result of some exercise that she did that brought this about? What are the circumstances in that she's seeing her veset? So usually the circumstances are her ordinary, regular veset. However, if she's taking pills, contraceptive pills, that could bring about staining. That is a big problem for certain women more than for others. If that doesn't work for them, they have to try something else. And some people, that's all they want to do, because that's the easiest one to do. Some people don't want to do that because they don't want to put anything into their body, into their mouth. They don't want to ingest anything. So even though we're not talking about contraceptives right now per se, it is something, of course, that women can, depending on the circumstances, use. Not all of them are halachically permissible. Not all contraceptives. For men, of course, nothing is permissible. But she has to be aware of the side effects that they may have. If she's taking a pill, she's putting something in her body. So there are certain activities that can bring about the veset, not in its regular time. But the women that are usually not they don't need to be concerned with this are the one who has not reached adulthood yet, or a skena. We said a woman who's already older, which we assume nistal kudameo. So nistal kudameo is the term that we need to know is associated with a woman who already beyond the age where she ordinarily sees blood. As opposed to a pregnant woman and a nursing woman, which we'll soon see, have a slightly different classification. Even though they may have something in common, they're slightly different. All right, Sif Daled. In Sif Daled, the Mechaber says, Im regila lirot behanetzach hama, if she ordinarily sees at sunrise, velo kimlan shapir ikodem hanetzach hama or acharav, and we don't know, somehow we couldn't figure out, there's a lack of clarity whether is this before sunrise or acharav or afterwards. Ena asura ela bayom, she's only asa, according to the Mechaber, that is, that one ona, the day, not the night. So here there's a question, right? What's the question? She always pretty much sees at Netzach Hama sunrise. But sunrise, that's cutting it very, pretty much in between the day and the night, right in the middle. But what have we learned so far? We've learned about Vesatot, that it's the Rabbanan. Not necessarily the Hafrosha here, or the bdika, but the whole idea of veset is a derabanan. That's what we hold, and it's a typical suffix derabanan. So it's a suffix derabanan. So we're not machmir the night as well as the day. But why are we machmir on the day more than the night? It's pretty much right in the middle, because it's a fact. During daylight, she will for sure be tmeya. She's unclean. I mean, the fact is she's now unclean. So that uncleanliness, that status of niddah, is carrying itself into the day. So when do we have a suffix? We have a suffix, well, how about the night? How about a few hours before? We got a few hours before, we don't need to be concerned about. It's a pretty much a suffix derabanan. You can call it that. The Shach adds on this that the same would be if she had a doubt by shkia. Is it the day? Is it the night? Right? Shkia, sunset. And he says she would be tmeya into the night, because the night is obvious that she's tmeya now. It's not so obvious what was there before. So we take it as of when she is mekulkelet. Mekulkelet, in other words, when is it for sure a problem for her? It is a problem for her right now at night, because now she's unclean. We just have a suffix legabe what it was, what the halacha was during the day. So during the day, she would be okay according to the mechaber, who holds that ona means only that period of time. The Bach, who I think the Shach also brings down over here, because he holds like the Or Zarua, because he's machmer, obviously he would say in this kind of situations where there is a suffix, you would go ahead and say the night as well. So during the morning hours, if it's sunrise, you would say it's the day asur and the night is asur. And if it's shkia, it would be that night plus the day before. And it appears that, the Shach goes along with that. So that's, I think that's not a very typical situation, but we need to know that if it does happen, that if it's at sunrise, if there's a suffix like that, you can be mekel, suffix derabanan l'kula, and you go with what the mechaber says, that the period of time that would be also would be the day. And if it's shkia, the night. The next, however, seif is a little bit different. So here you have an individual who sees blood for a prolonged period of time. Now, what does prolonged mean? We're going to see a big difference between sif hey and sif vav. Does prolonged mean 2 hours, or does prolonged mean 3 days? And it makes a world of a difference. When a woman has her period, it can come as drops first. It doesn't come gushing out. It's bloody. There's a stain or so. She's of course expecting it at a time, so she may have a sensation and so forth. Or it could be even heavier. They make different pads because depending on how heavy the period is. And that could depend on the woman, it could depend on the age, it could depend on many, many things. And I can't tell you too much about that because, I'm a man and not a woman. So that's something that one needs to ask the woman, or women, on how that comes about, because it varies. All we know is that initially it comes, it's there, but it's not continuously there. And that's why we have the following halachas. How long is it lasting? Because here we're talking about vesa. We're not just talking about that she's tmeya. We know that, but we're talking about, this is going to help us establish, perhaps, a regular time, to be able to predict what it will be next month. So when did she have it exactly? She's going to have to write it down. So here the mechaber is saying, Im regila lirot reya mikodem hanetzachama ad achar hanetzachama. It's before, and it starts at night and lasts into the day. Asura balayla ubayom keshiur hanimshach bo. Then the time of ona that she is asura to be with her husband is the whole night, and during the day, just the amount of time that it usually lasts into the day. Interesting. Where did he get that? Well, he got that from the Ravid, because there are 3 shitas begabe this particular kind of a situation. 3 shitas, 3 days. One says she's asura the night and the day, because it looks like her veset pares. It's split between the night and the day. So, night and the day are also, according to this one opinion. The second opinion is that she's only asur at night. Why? Because you go after the beginning of the Vesed. When it was the beginning of the Vesed, it happened at night. And the third opinion, the Raiva, which is what the Halacha is in the Mechaber here, is that it began at night, therefore the whole night is Asr, but it continues on for an hour or two, because that's just a fact. That's how long it lasted, and that's as far as we are Machmir in the... So the Mechaber chose the Raiva's Shita as the Halacha. That's how, in other words, you don't have to be Machmir for sure both days, because the beginning of the Vesed is significant, but why Asr a whole day? We don't see... I mean, if we pass like Rabbi Yehuda, remember? Rabbi Yehuda says if it happens pretty much on the morning, the whole day is hers. It's only the night that is a problem. Even though it's the beginning of the day, it could have been it lasted a few minutes into the day. No, the whole day is hers, he says. So based on that, there's no real reason to be machmir night and day. But it does last a little bit. So it could be that's the type of Vesed, that it lasts, and the whole night would be Asr. The Mechaber says like the Raivat, and just a portion of the day that she's. Okay, so far so good. Now in Sif Vov, however, the situation becomes very, very interesting. This is not typical. Im Veset nimshach bet o gimel yamim, if the Veset is continuous, 2 or 3 days, sheshofat o mezalefet, that she's flowing, or that she is, how would you say that, sprinkling? Spotting. The spotting is a better word. Continuously, what would you say to that? Mechaber says, she only has to separate herself the first ona of the Vesed, the kivan shavra ona velora tamuten. Therefore, if that ona passes, she's muteret. Now, wow, what's going on in this seif? Here in this seif, she's seen 3 days. What would I think? All 3 days are also yes, and there are opinions like that. Big machlokes rishonim. What's the problem over here? The problem is in trying to interpret the biology, I guess, of what's going on. Is this really one Vesed? Is that possible for this to be one Vesed? Or is the Vesed really a particular moment in time it arrives, and the rest is just extra blood? I mean, on the average, women do see between 4 and 5 days as it is during their period. So because that is just the fact that she will see a number of days of blood, the fact that it's continuous here doesn't really mean anything. It's just, as the Meforshim here say, tosefet damim. All it is extra blood. But the Vesed is only that one day. And this is very important, because if you're going to say that the Vesed is all 3 days, that means she has to watch out for every one of those days. Yeah, that makes it very difficult for a husband and wife. I mean, she has to be... So there's three-way machlokes here. One opinion says chosheshet only for the first day, but the other days she still has to be concerned of, but not as a Vesed Kavua, as a Vesed She'ena Kavua. As you know, the halachas for Vesed She'ena Kavua are slightly different than the Vesed Kavua, which eventually we'll get into. The second opinion, which is our halacha, that you only chosheshet for the first day, u'lish'ar yamim ena chosheshet, and the other days she doesn't have to be concerned. The first one. Why? Because the rest of it is tosefet damim. The real ona is only, the real Vesed is only the first day. The third opinion says that she has to be chosheshet for every single day of those 3 days. And there's a machloket as to why that opinion says that she should have to be chosheshet for all 3 days. One explanation given is that because today women are now bekiot, dam Niddah, dam zava, dam tohar, dam tameh, they have to be extra careful. And extra careful means, dealing with the situation and assuming that it could be any one of those days. The Raivat says that's not the real concern. He basically eliminates that a concern here. The Raivat says the fact is that the first day she is she has to be concerned with, because the first day is the real ona, and the whole chashash of estot is derabanan anyway. So because of that, there's no reason to be, if it's a suffix over here, which it is, to be concerned about those days. But the Raivad himself, his own opinion was that there is a concern that perhaps all 3 days would be considered one long Vesed. That, yes. He says it's not what the others wanted to say, that because women are not Bekiyas. He says that women not Bekiyas does not really apply here. Here, the fact is that, it's a real concern that it could be one long Vesed. Because had it been a suffix, then a suffix is a suffix d'Rabbanan. So that's not the issue, that they're not Bekiyas. Not Bekiyas, we said we had various takanas because of that. But here, it's not because of that. Anyway, the halacha lemaisa, we're not choshesh to that this is all one vesed. As we said, that the main vesed is the first day. Okay, so now that we saw Sif Vav, what's the obvious question? The obvious question is, how is Sif Hey different than Sif Vav? Sif Hey, what did we say in Sif Hey? She's having an extended period. And by extended, I mean the first time she sees blood, it lasts from the night and into the day. And what was the halacha there? The halacha was there that she has to, like the writer, that you have to be concerned with the night, in the case where it was in the morning, and a little bit into the day, an hour or two. Okay, that made sense. Fine, we agree to that. Then how come in Sif Vav we hold that Enat Tzicha Lifrosh Ela Ona Harishona Shel HaVesed, that we're only concerned with the first Ona, and not with the rest of the days? Here she sees 3 days, 2 or 3 days. And you only have to be concerned with that one or not. Whereas in Sif Hey, if she's used to seeing from Kodem Hanetz, before sunrise, until after the Netz, the whole night she's also, plus an hour or two or whatever it is into the day. You follow the question? The Shach and Taz, everybody asks this question. What should be the difference between Hey and Sif Vav? Why? But here too, it says 2-3 days, continuous. It keeps on going. Sure. That's the way it reads, at least. Right. Exactly. So what both of you are saying is what pretty much the Meforshim discuss. One opinion is it doesn't exactly happen that way, that it's continuous flow for 3, and there is definitely some hafsaka, some interruption, and therefore that is why with the 3 days it's only Tosefet Damim. But there was some sort of interruption, can't be going this way. And therefore, the first day is what really matters. That's one explanation. Because it's almost impossible, exactly. The other explanation is that we say that a little bit of extra time, you can be metzaref to the ona, but not 2-3 days. It's a little bit of a different take on it. If you say it lasts 2.5 hours instead of a half an hour, you can say that the 2 extra hours are being mitzaref to the half an hour. So it happens to be that this woman, it just goes into the day. So a little bit of time can be mitzaref to the initial moment she's, but 2-3 days, that we don't say it's mitzaref. Yeah. Either way, I mean, they both work out. Both explanations work out. I mean, everybody's pretty much, at least as far as the halacha is today, pretty much everybody's in agreement that you wouldn't have to be concerned about every one of those days. If it's always like it lasts. We say it's Tosefet, then all it is extra blood. The Ikar HaVesed is 1 day, a particular day. And as the Mechaber says, she would have to be concerned only with the Ona of that day or night, whichever it is. Alright. So now we're done with the average woman. I mean, we're going to come back to her. We're going to come back and see later on in the Siman, what does this average woman need to do when that Vesed arrives, and what happens if the husband has to go out of town, and that time is coming. We're going to come back to that. But in the meantime, the Mechaber makes a small interruption and speaks about a few individuals who have a different status. We mentioned before Skena and Ketana, and now he mentions a pregnant and a nursing woman. And by the way, there's more talk about it later on in Siman Kuf Pei Test, where we really see, that Siman where we see, there's a lot of halachas there, and where you really see the difference between a pregnant nursing woman versus a young and older woman. In some ways, a young woman could be more, let's just say it could be quite different than the pregnant nursing woman. In other ways, they could be very similar. So here, he's talking about the Vesed. Im higia in Sif Zayin, im higia vesta b'mei vura, she's pregnant. B'sha'a tova. And what's b'mei vura? What does pregnancy mean? Mishihukar ubra. That's how we paskin. For the most part, a woman is considered pregnant not when the doctor tells her, but when you recognize pregnant. And when is that? 3 months. And as I pointed out last week, Rabbi Moshe Feinstein wanted to suggest that perhaps in nowadays, since women don't see blood after they get pregnant, that perhaps she doesn't even have to be concerned earlier on in her pregnancy. We're machmer. We're machmer today to watch out for the vesed in the very, very beginning of the pregnancy, because it may happen, and it does happen. Not to everybody, it can happen. And because it can happen, we don't say she's mesuleket damim, that she has no blood, until what happens? Until you see she's pregnant. In other words, it has to have been that, she of course doesn't see blood. Plus, 3 months or so have transpired.
So she notices?
You can tell.
The question I've got is whether she or else.
As far as her pregnancy? No, it's 3 months. That's why we have the period of time called 3 months.
So
3
one
months.
of the signs, we take tests nowadays.
No. Mishihukar ubra. Oh, she's full.
You see it from
Oh,
the
you can
outside
start
without
seeing
the
the-
You can start seeing, yeah.
Yeah.
As long as she's not wearing a big coat and trying to hide it. And some women are very petite. You can't even tell until she's 5-6 months.
Yes, even barely.
You can barely even tell, right? But we're talking about the average here. Once you can tell, and when is that? 3 months. So her status, the halacha is quite different. That imigia vesta b'mei bura mishehu karubra o b'mei menikata when she's nervous. Shehem chaf daled 24 chodashim mishnolada 24 months, 2 years after the baby was born. Afilu metav, even if the baby died. En tzarich lifrosh, you don't have to separate yourself samuch levestav. Afilu betoch vesta, even during her actual vesed, muteret belo bdika without checking, because we assume she shouldn't be getting it. Not during the time she's pregnant, and not during the time she's nursing. Even though there is a klal that is applied in many areas of halacha, nishtanu atva'im. Nature has changed. People are different today than in the past. A lot of things have changed today. In nature, the atmosphere, and in many areas. And in people, some things have never changed in people. There were always crooks. There still are crooks. These things, some things stay the same. But the physical, I guess, physical makeup or symptoms or ailments and things, yeah. Sure, all kinds of things happen differently today than they happened. So, as a result of that, nishtanu tva'im, even though a woman is nursing, and I've seen this myself, I've known of cases, even though she's nursing, she will get pregnant, and she will, of course, have her period, even though she's not supposed to. Technically, she most likely will not. But how much is she nursing? You see what I mean? Exactly. If she's the doctors, the non-Jewish doctors will tell you this. They agree with this, that it helps. Is it a guarantee? No. In the past, it was more secure. Secure meaning that it was not impossible, but it was more secure. There were less exceptions.
When she nurses. If she stops nursing after.
As long as she's nursing, the nursing was usually 24.
It's not a magic number.
No, but we will see. We'll see how that.
So as long as she's nursing.
Right. During the time of nursing, during the time of pregnancy, she wouldn't have to be concerned about the vessel, even the vessel itself. That's how the Rosh holds. That en tzarich lifrosh samuch levesta, you don't have to stay away. Ve'afilu betoch vesta muteret belo bdika, without even checking. That we're more machmer.
But that's when she's pregnant.
Yeah. Now there's a chance that once she's pregnant, she won't be getting her period, because after all, that's one of the signs that she's pregnant, right? She still, by the way, can have blood here and there, which would render her tmeya even during her pregnancy. But sure, definitely. But it would not be kovea vesed during the time of pregnancy. Even if you're machmir, and even if there is an issue, it doesn't mean that it is. That you're right.
Because she's still pregnant.
Yeah, you don't necessarily have to. We'll see later on. Do I need to be concerned about it, about that one day, as far as if the next time it comes around? What do I do if she did see? Okay, what do I do if she did see? But I don't want to jump into that halacha because we'll discuss it later. What happens if she did see? Does she have to be concerned about that one day that she just saw coming back again? So it happens. It is not a good sign if she's doing her pregnancy, so you want to check it out immediately. For other reasons. Besides Niddah, you have to check it out medically. Well, she shouldn't be seeing blood. It happens, yeah. My wife with my youngest daughter, she gave birth early. And the way it started happening was all of a sudden she sees blood. Pretty much almost entering her 7th month. What's this? We'll check it out. Things are starting to happen. And of course, that's all mishamayim. Some people need to come at a certain time. You just can't wait. You let them through.
But the beginning of the 7 months is one of the Gemara says. That
Sure, exactly. Preemies, yeah.
12 months, 9 months in the beginning.
You get past the 3 months.
Right.
The rest of the pregnant, active nursing.
There's almost no Niddah.
There's
No.
no owner, no nothing.
Nothing, yeah.
Unless she sees
blood.
But she doesn't have to check.
Right, and that's a yoledet. The status of a yoledet who saw blood, usually sees blood unless it's a C-section, and the halachas are different because blood from the makor, it's an operation. But it's not from the makor, sure. So a regular birth, there's a difference between a boy and a girl. But today it's kimat not, the difference between the two is not noticeable because she's going to end up anyway having to wait the Shiva Nikiyim after the blood stops. And guess what? An average yoledet sees blood for quite a bit of time after her birth. About 2-3 weeks. So she covers boy and girl by the time she's done. But technically we need to know the halacha. The difference between boy and a girl is either 7 or 14 days. Right? So yeah, there is technically a difference.
So she stops seeing blood.
No, it's all together. Right. So but she's going to...
Right,
so it's not going to make a difference.
After that happens...
She still has the Shiva Nikiyim.
So 7 days
she's always, today we have...
Even if it's a girl.
All women have Shiva Nikiyim, whether it's a keten, period, or it's yoledet, yeah.
Whether it's a girl, once she stops, it'll be 7 days.
Well, now, but what do you do if she has a boy and a girl?
What's the problem?
You don't know what problem she has?
What's the problem?
The man has a big problem. He has to now make a bris and a kiddush.
No, I can imagine that, but that's her problem.
Yeah, her problem. It's a big mazel tov to have 2, to have 3. And I know people who had 5. Yeah, 5 kids. I think it was 3 boys and 2 girls.
At once? Or?
At once. Yeah, quintuplets. A lot of diapers. Yeah. It's not easy. It can, that's right, yeah. Right. Okay, so what's the main halacha in Sif Zayin? That these women, pregnant and nursing women, do not have to be concerned here the main idea is they don't have to be concerned about the Veset Kavua. And according to most opinion, I say most, they're not even Kovea Veset in that time. But we need to keep in mind that we hold that the Milberes is considered Milberes as for all intents and purposes here only after 3 months. And there were machmir beforehand. But if she did not see blood, of course, during that time, and she's not okeret veset. Okeret veset is in the same way you can establish a veset 3 times. You can also uproot a veset for not having seen. Well, obviously she didn't see, even though we're being machmir her. We're not going to uproot her veset. Oh, she didn't see. No, after she's gone back to normal, delivered, she goes back to be concerned about her old veset. Yeah, so she's not going to be okeret the veset. That's not going to happen.
2 years ago, we go back to the same cycle that she had.
Yeah, so for example, a woman who stops nursing, the day she stops nursing, she has to go back to her, be concerned with her veset. Yeah, the moment she stops nursing, because this is only as long as she's nursing. According to Rav Vosner, long life, in his Sefer Shevet HaLevi, a menekes has the status of evarea mitparkin. Her whole body has changed. It's like, I wouldn't know how they describe it in English, but I guess the feeling that goes through her body during the time that she's nursing or after the time she's given birth is that she is in some ways weaker, just feels very, very different than before she became pregnant. And as a result of that, that's why the body does not function the same way as far as her period is concerned. She's not going to get it as long as she's feeling the way she's feeling through this period of giving birth. So he says that this would also apply if she gave birth by C-section. That if she nurses, we still say that she has the status of Bevarea Mitpakin, in other words, that the body probably goes through the same kind of feeling, of weakness and so forth, that would hold back the blood. Blood is like being held back from coming out. And even though it was a C-section, there's halachas, different halachas for C-section, but as far as menekes, she's a nursing woman. A nursing woman after a C-section would still be a nursing woman. Now, there are some who are machmir. So, oh, it was C-section, oh, you may see it. No, but I think even Rabbi Elyahu says also the same thing. She would have the same status as a regular menekes, that she would not have to be concerned about the veset, the ona.
So after she gives birth, how do you know when to be? I mean, when do you start having to worry about that she might have her vested?
After she gets it the first time.
When that time is going to be.
No, so Rabbi Elyahu says, they say in the name of Rabbi Elyahu, by his own saber about this, they say, it's brought down in his name, that a menekes that stopped nursing goes back, or is choishesh, the first time she sees blood again, after she stopped nursing. As soon as she sees it the first time, she sees blood.
So before, without having checked, she starts checking.
Then she starts checking, yeah.
So the first time, that's the start.
In other words,
start checking.
in other words, he doesn't say that she's mesuleket damim, just because she stopped nursing. Because we said before that as soon as a person stops nursing, they lose that status. But he explains that yes, they lose that status, but only after the first time seeing.
You don't even know when to expect that.
Exactly. Yeah. Till she sees one more time, she did not lose her status just yet. I said before that once a woman stops nursing, be concerned about it. But he says that it would only happen after she sees the first.
She loses her status.
Then she has lost that status. Yeah.
The day of the month, or so many days, whatever.
Average.
Yeah.
If this starts again after the. She stops.
Yeah. So if we said if she stopped nursing, she goes back to her veset. But what I was adding now was that they say in the Rabbi Elyahu that she only has to be concerned about it is once she sees one more time after she stopped nursing. Then she goes back to being concerned about that particular veset. Yeah. But B'ezrat Hashem, eventually when we talk about the halachas of pregnant women, we'll get into more detail, how to deal with the situation as it comes. Because some women perhaps, even if they're nursing, may get it. So is that a one-time thing, or going back to her veset? Right now, from what we've learned so far, is we know that she has how should we say it, an exemption, if you want to call it that. She's mesuleket damim, supposedly. Okay, what happens if she stops nursing? Oh, if she stopped, then she can technically go back to her veset. As of when, Rabbi Elyahu says, as soon as because she could still maybe, for the next week or two, be still mesuleket damim. So until she sees. But of course it can become complicated. What if she's not one of those women who will be mesuleket damim for 2? I mean, most women don't nurse. Okay? What if she, during her first year even of nursing, she how do we treat? So of course, blood is blood. Unless of course you know it's somewhere else. And of course that will interrupt her clean cycle. She would have to be concerned about this blood. But does that mean that now, what about the future? Perhaps the next month or two she won't see it? See, that's where it becomes, a little bit complicated, because she's not going back to her veset until after she's mesuleket damim. Until after she stops being mesuleket, does she go back to her? Shouldn't be expecting it, but there are what they say in English flukes, and that fluke we said even can happen during pregnancy. So during the first 3 months, because we know it happens, then you have to be extra careful, and I think everybody tells you to check before, if it's during that time. Check, and then you're safe. It can happen. But other than that, there's no reason to suspect it. Let's just finish with the last halacha. Sif Ches is a very simple halacha, but it's one of those situations where a woman, in a sense, may not get her period because haytanich bet. She was hiding b'machbeh or b'machbo in some cave, in some hiding place. She was concerned about kidnappers, about the enemy, or whatever. Unfortunately, there were times in our history where this was a problem. And this is taken from the Gemara, by the way. This is not Mechaber speaking about the Inquisition time, even though this is an issue too. This is a situation where a woman was very, very frightened and was hiding, mipnei pachad, because some sort of fear. V'higia shat v'sta, in the time of Rebbe came, ena chosheshet lo, concerned about it, because that fear, the constant, while she's there, holds back the blood.
The back.
Holds it back, so she won't see her vessel.
Cause
She,
the blood.
huh?
Because it also causes blood.
Right, so I explained earlier that is that one fear that lasts momentarily, shocked, surprise, that can bring blood. And this is the kind, because it appears to be a contradiction. Here we're saying what is happening as a result of this fear, the blood is being held back. That is a constant fear that's there for a couple of days. So if she happens to be during that time in a place where in hiding, where it's fearful, yeah, that will hold it back. She won't see it, she doesn't have to be concerned, which is an interesting halacha, but that's taken from the Gemara.
Like that?
Yeah, as long as she's in constant state of fear, as opposed to a sudden fear which can bring blood, which is a totally different kind of situation. So if the Mechaber brings down this halacha, now the Ramah paskins a little bit different. He paskins like the Tur. The Tur had a little bit of a problem with this. He interprets the Gemara a little bit different. He could even had a different nuch. I saw somebody. Yesh Omer, the Ramah says, Dafka im avara vesed velo batka. Now we will be learning next time that once the vesed comes, she's supposed to check. I mean, forget about the Oraisa, the Rabbanan. A woman is supposed to check herself once she knows this is the time. All right? Now, so what happens if she didn't check? So that will be the question that we will look into next time. What happens if she did? Is she usher until she checks again, or is she okay because she didn't feel anything? All right, we'll see that. But here the Ramah says Yesh Omri, in the case of fear. Dafka im avar havesed velo batka. It's only if the vesed went by and she forgot to check, she didn't check. So b'di'evet it's okay. Velo yirgisha, she didn't feel anything. Then teora belo bdika, she's completely clean without even having to check herself a second time. Aval lechatchila tzricha bdika. The Ramah says lechatchila, she should check herself. Just because she's anxious and fearful, it doesn't necessarily mean she won't get it. She can still get it. Now I think it's the Taz. The Taz is the one that says over here that while she's fearful, even according to the Chaber, the husband should not be with us. It could be that intimate moment will calm her down enough and will bring back her vesed. All right, but that's a separate point. So we have here machlokas, and this machlokas has to do with the Tur. Beis Yosef explains that the reason why the Tur said what he said is because the way he understood the Gemara, the way he understood the whole sugya was that the whole thing is a b'di'evet. The lechatchila, even if a woman is hiding, she's supposed to check herself. But it's only in a b'di'evet that she didn't check. Well, because she was in great status, a state of fear, we assume, especially that she didn't feel anything, that the blood was held back. So she doesn't have to check herself again now. But lechatchila, she should check herself. So that's the situation where she's in a state of fear that is lasting, I guess, a little bit of time, that somehow, that's the way it's understood from the Gemara, somehow that holds back the blood. I mean, ad kedei kach, that the Mechaber brings this down the halacha. Ena chosheshet lo, he says. She doesn't even have to be concerned for the vesed, and therefore the ona. But the Ramah says, but wait a minute, we can't take a chance just like that. It's that was only meant by the Eved really. But lechatchila, you always have to check. And by the way, I also thought about how do you measure fear? What kind of fear? What if there's is it a mouse? What's out there?
So he says we're not experts in doing that.
He does that? He said that? Yeah. We're not experts in what kind of a fear he's talking about. But I would assume that the fear that the Gemara was talking about was the fear of the Romans, the fear of the enemy, which was great fear. You know that underneath the Koisel was the original street of Yerushalayim, at least in Bayis Sheni. The Romans didn't know, there was a certain area where the Romans did not know that section existed. And a lot of them hid there until they were discovered. And, I'm assuming that during that time that they were hiding in those subterranean alleys, canals, or whatever they were, sewers, they were in great fear of being caught. So during that time, it could be the women who happened to be there were probably not singular period.
Would it have to be a time of persecution?
Yeah, it was great fear. It was great fear. Oh, by the way, that would be another example. Yeah, the Holocaust. I mean, sure. War in general. Oh, definitely. No, I think so. Just remember, one thing is for sure, that experience has shown that if the women go through some unusual experience, and even a flight that could bring on the period, that can stop the period, the change of countries and climate, can sometimes interrupt the period for 3 months, and she's not pregnant, this young girl. If you speak to girls, you will see that they all have various experiences as a result of travel, as a result of change in location, as a result of all kinds of experiences, perhaps even illness, that caused some bodily change as a result of that interrupted their period. So this is just one example, of course, the fear factor. But of course, we're machmir. If somebody is in that situation, which is also, as it is unusual, they should check themselves that they have. Okay, let's continue now.